Hey everybody, what's up? Let's talk about Fixeur. So Fixeur is a Romanian film about a determined young journalist who is a fixer, as the title suggests, which in journalism means someone who is local to a certain country, who is hired by foreign correspondents to help arrange a story, to help arrange interviews. They often act as a translator or a guide, gaining access to local interviews that the correspondent might otherwise not have access to, and that's exactly what our main character does, and that's exactly what he wants to do when news is made public about two underage prostitutes who are victims of human trafficking and who are being deported back from Paris to their local hometown in northern Romania, Bistrița to be more exact. A French reporter and his cameraman are really interested in the story and are obviously eager to be the first ones to jump on it, so our main character agrees to help them by using his connections to arrange an interview with one of the 14-year-old underage girls, and obviously this will prove to be a little bit difficult because now she is held at a monastery youth center and the nuns there don't really want anyone visiting her or seeing her or talking to her and stuff like that, blah blah blah. Judging by just simply that setup, you would probably think that this is a story that could go in many different directions. But for me, knowing and being a fan of Adrian Citaru's work, who is one of my favorite Romanian directors, I knew going in that this was going to be probably much more of a character study rather than anything else, rather than a straightforward commentary on such topics as complicity, manipulation, corruption, prostitution, kidnapping, moral principles. I mean, sure, it's about all those things, and all of those things are peppered throughout the film, but it's really filtered through this one main character. The film isn't framed by a sort of subplot that really tries to mirror our main character's failings as an empathetic human being in general by showing us his relationship with his very young son, who is about 8 years old, I think, and the film begins and ends with scenes that functions as sort of a prologue and an epilogue. They take place at the town pool, where in the beginning we see his son trying to improve his swimming skills and improving his speed so he can win a competition later on, and in the end we see actually that competition play out and we see how he manages. His father takes the whole situation much more seriously than his son is, and actually much more seriously than he should be taking it. I mean, it's swimming, it's supposed to be fun, but he has a very demanding attitude towards his son. Like, for him, coming in second in a race or in a competition, like, just isn't an option, and he really gives his son a very hard time because of this, and actually a very serious fight breaks out between the two of them during a dinner in the beginning of the scene, which was one of my favorite scenes in the whole film because of how well acted it was. Even the kids, very good in this scene, and the whole chemistry between father-son character was genuinely good. Obviously this subplot isn't as riveting as the main plot, but I think it works. It doesn't have to be, especially considering that the director's previous film, Illegitimate, which I also reviewed and I recommend you checking out, also had a sort of epilogue attached to it that completely didn't work. It completely undermined the whole rest of the film. You know, they tried to have this very nice bow at the end, wrapping everything up, saying that, okay, we went through all of this shit together, but everything is going to be alright. Here they try to have sort of the same thing, but the only difference is that it works because it's set up nicely and it pays off nicely. It's not something that just feels heavy-handed or clumsily tacked on. No, I think here it really humanizes our main character, which was actually something I think was very needed. I didn't want just another journalist who is all about being serious and all about his job and all about achieving what he has to achieve. No, he is a very flawed human being who really has to realize the mistakes he is making, really has to try to find a way to fix them, to come to terms with them, and I think it really made him into a very relatable character. There's a right and a wrong way to doing things, and it's not very black and white. Sometimes they can overlap. You might be wanting to do what you think is the right thing, but the wrong way, but with the right intentions, and I think that has really been a major staple in Citaru's films up until now. Speaking of Adrian Citaru, the director of the film, it's very strange how he took even more of a back seat with this film than he did with his previous film, Illegitimate, which was mostly improvised by his actors. This film, very uncharacteristic for a film being directed by him, is written by someone else. It's written entirely by his cinematographer turned screenwriter turned producer, Adrian Sirișteanu, who was heavily influenced by his very own experiences as a real-life fixer. So really, this is a film that is as close as you can get to a film being based on true events without actually being about a specific true event. The director is known for his very unusually creative visual style. His first two films are shot completely in POV shots. Every single shot is the point of view of one of the characters. And in his first film, it's actually what you would expect it to be, is this very shaky, very chaotic camera style. But in his second film, it's something much more refined, and it's really, really, really cool. I really dug that about his first two films, and it's a directorial style that seems to have been somewhat diminished with his last two films. What he does here visually is something quite strange. It's actually something similar to like an interview. If you've ever seen an interview, like a filmed, long, uncut interview, you've probably noticed there are certain adjustments being made to the image from every now and then. Like, it might go in and out of focus, the camera might switch its angle slightly, there might be some zooming going on. It's a very raw and in-the-moment sort of filming style that makes it into this film as well. And the first time it happens, it's incredibly jarring, like seeing that in a cinema on the big screen in a motion picture. But what actually happens is that our point of view switches, and we actually see that what we saw previously was through the camera of our main character. It's a very nice little trick, it makes sense, but it happens again later on a couple of times, and I even think it happens during the scene in which our father and son are arguing. And I don't know, it's interesting. I mean, I've never seen anything like it in a film before. I don't think it was all that necessarily needed, but it's okay. The movie is filled with a lot of humor. There are many like small scenes that have random characters just coming in and out of the film. Like once our main characters get into like a sort of fight on the street with some bullies, once they come across some Hungarian peasants who don't speak Romanian or don't really want to speak Romanian, that sometimes happens. So they have this sort of language barrier thing going on. Once our main character comes across a guy on a train who has an amputated arm, and just the conversation between them is probably the funniest thing in the whole film. My whole cinema was laughing when that scene was happening. And these are all stereotypes that are pretty funny. I'm especially for someone like me who's from Romania, very familiar with these stereotypes. They are quite clever and amusing. And it just goes to show that like most of Sitaru's films, even though they are not comedies, they have a lot of like very clever comedic moments in them. On the other hand, however, what might appear to be somewhat of a slow build-up, the interview eventually does happen. And man, I mean, it's quite revelatory and very heartbreaking, to say the least. So I definitely recommend Fixeur. I was very much looking forward to it, and it really didn't disappoint me. There were just a couple of things I was kind of pondering, like, why was that all that necessary? Why did you think that was all that essential? But there's really nothing I can say I didn't like about it per se. And I really hope you will be able to check it out. For now, it really seems to be only in the festival circuit. It's having its release here in Romania, I think, this week. What I want to ask you is, what is your favorite Romanian movie post-2000? I'm really curious to see if I have any fans of Romanian cinema among my subscribers. I mean, obviously, I know I have a few because I have friends I know personally who like Romanian cinema and who are subscribed to me. But to all the rest of you, I mean, don't forget to leave your comments down below. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to like and subscribe so I can see you later with other reviews. Until then, folks, stay cool, stay awesome, goodbye.